22 minutes past 8. As you've been hearing, Emma has an exclusive interview, a very rare interview with Kate Bush. Here is what she has to say about it before we hear the interview itself.
This week I had the rare pleasure of sitting down with Kate Bush and her cat to watch a new short animated film she's made called Little Shrew. It tells the tale of an animal caught up in war trying to survive and is out today. It's set to her haunting and beautiful song Snowflake and is created to support the charity Warchild, which helps children caught up in conflict, a cause Kate has supported over the years. Her decision to make the animation was prompted by the outbreak of war in Ukraine, and she felt moved to create something and began work with an illustrator. Kate Bush has sold 20 million albums around the world and was 19 when she released her first single, Wuthering Heights, becoming the youngest woman to have a self-written #1 in the UK. In 2022, a whole new audience discovered Kate Bush through the TV series Stranger Things, with the use of her hit single, Running Up That Hill, sending it back to the top of the charts 37 years after it was first released. And, excitingly, tantalisingly, in this interview, as you will hear, Kate Bush is ready to start working on a new album, saying it's been a long time, but she's ready to create something new. But first, we started by talking about her new film.
So I started working on it over a couple of years ago, and it was not long after the Ukrainian war broke out. I think it was such a shock for all of us. You know, it's been such a long period of peace that we've all been living through. And I just felt that I really wanted to make a little animation that would feature originally a little girl. It was really the idea of a child and children that are caught up in war. I wanted to draw attention to, you know, how horrific it is for children. And so I came up with this idea for a little storyboard and felt that actually it would be more, people would probably be more empathetic towards a little creature rather than a human. I came up with the idea of it being a little shrew.
I mean, I think that's fascinating, that perhaps sometimes some people's empathy is bigger when they see a defenceless animal in a situation versus even a child.
I mean, I think to a certain extent we've all become really desensitized by the violence that we see in films all the time, you know, where people are just being slaughtered, really.
Yeah.
But if a dog were to be killed in a film, everyone would be up in arms. It's a terrible thing to say, but I think there is an element of truth in that.
With certainly the war in Ukraine, but I'm obviously now mindful of other wars, and not least what's happened in the Middle East over the last 12 months. It's closer to home when that war broke out, like you say, and it was a surprise for some, not for others. But that piece on the continent of Europe and what we think about with our own stability, it did shake a lot of people to the core.
Absolutely. I mean, I think we've all been through very difficult times. These are dark times that we're living in, and I think to a certain extent everyone is just worn out. I mean, we went through the pandemic and that was a huge shock, and I think really we felt that once that was over, if you could ever say it was over, that we would all be able to sort of get on with some kind of normal life. But in fact it just seems to be, you know, going from one situation to another, and more wars seem to be breaking out all the time.
I've had the luck to watch this, and to watch it with you, in fact, to see it just before it was ready. I know you were still tinkering with it. I hope I'm going to get this right. Is it a Caucasian pygmy shrew?
Yes.
Okay. Why the choice of that very small animal?
They're so tiny, and they're incredibly sweet, tiny little creatures. I had some encounters with shrews over the years because of my cats who would bring them in, and luckily in most cases they were still alive, so I'd be able to catch them and have a quick look at them before I put them out. And they're just incredibly cute little creatures, and they have this nose like this sort of long proboscis. It's almost like a little elephant's trunk that moves. It's very mobile and incredibly charming.
The animation it's very cute, but it also brings home the vulnerability, the defenselessness of people in those situations. And it's very powerful with the song that you picked for it. I mean, when you wrote Snowflake, what were you trying to bring across? I was just looking at some of the lyrics. You know, one of them is, "The world is so loud, keep falling, I'll find you." What were you writing about?
Well, at the time, it was really something I'd written in order to feature my son, who was still a child at that point, and to capture his very beautiful descant voice before he grew up. The idea of this little snowflake falling to ground, and that this person then managed to find it and catch it amongst all the other millions of snowflakes that were falling. And a few people at the time said to them what they imagined the song to be was a mother and a soul who were looking to find each other. I thought it was a really beautiful image that actually a few people said that quite independently.
And then you thought perhaps it would work in this instance, the idea of finding each other amidst the rubble, but also sort of hope?
Yes, very much so. I mean, that's one of the key features of the animation, is that there is hope. Hopefully there is hope. And it's something that I think we all need big time right now.
Just going back to something you said before about us becoming desensitized to the image and the visions and the scenes of violence. I mean, where do you think that goes? How do we sort of, I don't know, deal with that, do you think?
I mean, when you look at some of the imagery that's in films now, I despair.
Really?
I think you kind of wonder, why do people want to watch stuff like this? You know, it's strange times. Do
you think music and certainly film, though, to slightly flip that on its head, can perhaps send messages home that the news can't? You know, maybe makes you think about something that you are looking at, but maybe you've become desensitized to?
Not all films are violent or ugly. There are some incredible masterpieces out there, and the same with music. I think music is something that can bring hope to people. Very special stuff, music, and it's one of the, well, I think it is the only art form, isn't it, that is invisible. All other art forms tend to work on a very visual plane. There's something about music. If it's something that talks to you, it can really get in deep, you know, really under your skin.
I think I would be personally held to some sort of very serious account by those listeners to the radio if I didn't ask if you've got some ideas for music at the moment. Are you working on any new material?
Not at the moment, but I've been caught up doing a lot of archive work over the last few years on all kinds of different levels, redesigning our website, putting a lyric book together, and I'm very keen to start working on a new album when I've got this finished. I've got lots of ideas. I'm really looking forward to getting back into that creative space. It's been a long time.
Really? Is it something that you've been wanting to do for a while?
Yeah, it is really, yes. I mean, I think particularly the last year I felt really ready to start doing something new.
Wow. It will be music to many of your fans' ears to hear that.
Oh, well, thank you. That's a lovely thing to say.
Do you listen to a lot of music to get inspired yourself?
No, I don't really. No, I mean, what I tend to do is I watch a lot of films. I love watching films.
Your friend and early champion of yours, Dave Gilmour of Pink Floyd, was recently asked in a newspaper interview by a reader about whether he could get you back on stage soon. Did you see this? And he said, Kate Bush is the only person who can get Kate Bush back on stage. I think the show she did in 2014 at the Hammersmith Apollo was some of the best I've seen. We went several nights. I've tried persuading her recently, actually, gently. How's that going?
I'm not there yet.
What do you think it is now about potentially wanting to make more music, new music again? Is there something that's sort of changed with you, or some inspiration, if you don't mind me asking?
This animation has taken up a lot of time this year, so really once this is finished I'll be ready to start anew.
Do you think it will be different? Do you know what comes out before it comes out? Do you have any idea of how it might sound?
I think it's got to be different, hasn't it? I like to think that all my albums are different from each other, and yeah, I'm sure it will be different. I mean, we've all been through a lot the last few years, haven't we? So
I think what you said about, is it over? You know, I'm always mindful of post-lockdown, those who are still shielding, and also some of the longer-term impacts of that time and how it has changed how people socialise or how they don't or how they think about the world. I don't know if you can relate to any of that, but it's certainly something that perhaps many of us haven't processed yet.
Yeah, I think so. I think we're only just starting to come to terms with some of the effects that it's had. And I think, you know, it's like I said earlier, I think everyone's worn out. I also think everyone's kind of changed a bit since lockdown. I think it's really changed people. That and the combination of the bombardment of social media, which I don't really engage with, but I see it in a lot of my friends. You know, it's like People are very different.
How do you think you've changed?
How have I changed? I appreciate Little Shrews a lot more.
Is it a greater appreciation of nature?
You can stand outside and just look at the light, the sunlight. Like the other day was the most beautiful autumnal day. And all the trees were turning and the sunlight was like golden. And you just think, it is a really incredibly beautiful world that we live in, if we're lucky enough to be able to see those parts of it.
And be safe and all of those things that we started by talking about. And just to your point about social media, I mean, seeing a beautiful sky and not feeling the need to reach for your phone, to actually take that moment in and be there is the other thing that we're not as good at anymore.
I think we all need to be working on that, to actually be present in the moment. Living your life through your phone is maybe not as exciting.
It's lovely to talk to you, Kate.
And you too. Thank you so much, Emma. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to give this animation, have some light shone on it. So thank you very much. And if people feel they could donate even just the tiniest amount to Warchild or any other charity that deals with children caught up in war, that would be a really wonderful thing.
Kate Bush there, and exciting news about that new music that's coming. And there's another exclusive we've got for you here. Mike Williams has got it in the Sport. Morning, Mike.